Hi, I'm Dr. Keith Johnson. I'm reading an excerpt from my book. I know where I've been, I'm just not sure where I'm going. This is called Obituary to Leo. I lost my cat yesterday. No, I lost more than that. I lost my best friend, my companion, my buddy of 21 years. I could tell this weekend he was sick. He had never been sick a day in his life, and suddenly he was having a hard time walking. He wasn't interested in eating. He lay down in places in the house that he usually never even visited. I bought Leo in 1983. He was actually a gift to the family. I took 45 minutes to watch the litter of cats that were in the cage, frolicking, playing, mostly ignoring those humans who took time to look at them. But one became very friendly, a little calico cat that seemed to take as much interest in me as I did in him. I had been tutored by our local vet, who also was a friend of mine. He himself well known because he was the son of actress Susan Hayward. He gave me invaluable tips over coffee one day. The cat exists to be one of the most intelligent animals, IQ-wise, that exists. You can train a cat to do things that no other animal can do. That's why so many people have trouble getting along with cats. They happen to be so independent, they almost don't need us, except for sustenance and shelter, and of course their greatest need, which is love. Also, the cat will adopt you. It is an emotion, so if it likes you, it loves you. And if it doesn't like you, it ignores you. So get a cat that you are sure shows emotion towards you. I can't even find a woman to do that. If you treat it right and take care of it, it'll live an average of 15 years. Encouraged by my new knowledge, I watched these young kittens playing, eventually drawn to the one who seemed drawn to me. I bought this little calico cat and called him Leo, because he looked like a small lion. Not too long after that, I had family problems, and part of my inheritance from the failed marriage was the cat. But I loved him and was grateful for the companionship. How do you define the love of a cat? He looks to you for approval, seeks your assistance to eat, waits patiently at your feet for attention, still tries to stay out of your way. I tried the Teach Your Cat New Tricks plan, and Leo took to it immediately. One trick was simply to stay inside when the door was open until he was given permission to step out. People were amazed that Leo could be so obedient, but he didn't seem to have any problem. Another trick was not to take a bite of food even if it was placed in his face, no matter how much he wanted to eat it, until he got permission. These were fun things to show people that his obedient actions actually evidenced Leo's desire to please me. And he certainly seemed to know people. I had a sprint where I stayed with a girlfriend for about 7 months, hoping our life was going to be permanent together. Yet something told me that Leo had his doubts before we even moved in. One indication was that all the time I lived with my girlfriend, Leo made it a habit that when I took a nap or went to bed, he'd climb up on me and sleep on my back, something that he never did at any other time all during our life together. I gathered Leo was distancing himself from both my girlfriend and her daughter. As the relationship grew, I agreed with Leo, but he seemed to know it from the beginning. I should have listened to him. The housing complex was made of 12 separate upbeat buildings that looked exactly the same, and 21 apartments in each. We lived in building number 9 and apartment number 14. One day Leo got outside. We just lived on the 4th floor, which I imagine would make it more confusing. Lost for 2 days, I was beginning to panic that I'd seen the last of him. Until I was driving to work the next morning, someone cried that they had seen a cat at building number 12, apartment number 14. I drove to the building and found some people trying to move into the apartment that would be exactly where ours was in building number 9. And Leo was trying to get in, obviously confused by all the people movement, but thinking if he got into the apartment and looked around, he would find me. Evidently he had found the right apartment, but was in the wrong building. When I got on the floor, Leo saw me and ran and jumped into my arms. Wasn't long before we left the apartment complex, and I left the girlfriend too. A cat seems to be emotionally better equipped to adapt to the many changes of life, but there's no question that his emotions are constantly emitting at a high level. The emotions of many of God's creatures are not as high because they do not have such range of intelligence. You could leave a cat for a couple of days and he takes care of himself. Leave him for a long time and he mourns your absence. I especially became aware of these high emotions when, for a period of time, he and I moved in with my mom. While I was at work, Leo and Mom developed a relationship, and when the family again separated and Mom moved out of state, I could visibly see Leo was mourning her loss, laying in his private spot more, sometimes just keeping to himself. But he always bounced back, seemingly, that is, until this fateful weekend. I noticed trouble on Saturday. Leo wasn't eating as often as he normally did, nor was he eating as much. He would still cry for food a little bit, and he lay in spots in the house he usually never visited. Something was wrong when I had fixed him some chocolate milk.
Yeah, he loved chocolate milk. So did I. When I made his bowl available, he couldn't get up on the bed to drink it, like he usually did. And I had to pick him up and brought him to his bowl, and he drank some, but not much. I slept well that night. Leo was silent. When I woke, I found him resting by my office door in my home. I stepped in and did some personal bookwork, and then got the CDs that was going to play on my Sunday radio program. I had about an hour to spare before I had to be in the studio, as I did every Sunday morning. As I opened the door and stepped out of the office, there was Leo, laying at the door, something he never did, looking very sickly and barely breathing. There was no doubt in my mind we were facing his end. With tears in my eyes and a heavy heart, I picked Leo up for what I knew to be the last time, sat down in my big chair in the living room and caressed him in my lap. His heart was moving very fast and was barely breathing, and twitching softly, involuntarily. We took a full 5 minutes in quiet. Leo lifted his head and looked at me with the love he always had in his eyes, said a quiet meow, took one very deep breath, and then let it all out. And he died. He had held on to life outside my office until he could say goodbye. I buried Leo next to my dad's memorial. Mom said later that it was good to bury him there because Dad could now take care of Leo. I don't know for certain that there are animals in heaven, but from the stories in Revelation about horses and beasts so involved in the last days, and Isaiah making so many comments about the beasts of the field and specific animals living in the new earth, I ascertain there's a very good chance Leo has a good place waiting for him up in heaven. Whatever the case, Leo was a gift and blessing for me in his life, a companion I will never forget. With heaviness in my heart for a loved one which I now must be separated, I say thank you to my best friend, and I yield you to the angels. Rest in peace, good buddy. You deserve it. Goodbye, Leo.